Yeah, I think that men, even though they may be providing and the woman may be at home, I still think it's their responsibility to raise the child and be involved. There still has to be emotional support from the father. And there should be engagement as well. It's not just all on the mother.
Do you want a response from that? Was that directed at what we were talking about before?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think there's a mischaracterization from both of you that when you look at what I say, like I was saying, you said before that you didn't want a response when you said it, that you think that women should be providers and mothers. I think that it's doable.
What I was saying.
Yeah, women can be providers as well. You can be.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. And what was your statement again? That the men need to be there for the children? Yeah, so no one ever said that women can't be providers and that men shouldn't be there for their children. But I was talking about in my ideal standards. It would be the man who's the provider and the mother would take the primary role with the children. So.
What you want to say is like taking care of a kid is supposed to be equal.
No.
As long that's what she's trying to say, and that.
Are you saying like 50-50 in terms of they should spend the same amount of time with the child when it's young?
Not the same amount of time, but they should definitely spend time with the child. Just because they work doesn't mean they don't got to engage
equal or
with
not
their
equal?
child. There should be responsibility on their side.
But I'm not saying equal or not equal. That's what I'm saying.
Equal.
So you think it should be 50-50. The man should take care of the child and just as much as the mother and should spend just as much time. Do you think that the child needs the mother more in that time or the father more?
I think they may need the mother more, but that doesn't mean they don't need the father as well.
I didn't say that they don't need the father as well. I think so. Do they need the mother more in that time when they're young, when they're breastfeeding?
Yeah, we could say they need the mother more.
So that's what I'm saying. That the mother should probably take that primary role, but I'm not saying that men shouldn't have a role. But I say that the primary role of a man would be to provide for the family, to go to work, do the hours that you need to do, and make sure that the mother doesn't have anything to worry about financially, and that she's got a roof over her head. She's got things are all sorted. The dad's role is to make sure everything's sorted so that she can do her best role to raise the kids. That's what I think. But I don't think that he shouldn't have any involvement.
Okay,
so,
got it.
Yeah, and also I don't think that the mother can't work. She can work if she really desires to.
For sure, she can.
Your opinions on that will probably change when you have kids, but yeah.
We'll see.
Okay, last hot take here. This is for the feminists, and I'm going to wrap up the show. Directed towards the feminists. Related to our patriarchy and feminism and oppression talk. Hot take. Men have been more oppressed than women. Agree or disagree?
In some sense, agree. In some sense, disagree.
In totality.
Are we talking about in history as well? All throughout history? Or
historically and currently. And currently.
Ooh.
No.
Disagree?
Historically, definitely not.
Definitely not. Okay. Anybody? V? Agree?
Totally
disagree?
agree.
I'm still analyzing what.
Okay. What about you? Thoughts? You're a feminist.
I disagree.
Into the mic if you can.
I disagree.
Disagree?
Men have been more oppressed than women?
Men have been more oppressed than women, both historically and in current time, modern time.
I think I disagree.
Disagree? Katie?
I disagree historically, but I definitely see it becoming an issue currently.
Currently, okay.
Yeah.
Grid One Motorsports donated $100. Women care of infants and the household, men raised children and mold children into grown men and women. All studies point to children raised by men do better than children raised by mothers alone.
Yo, she said, did you hear what she said? She said this guy has too much money.
If you ever feel like you want to share money, I'll drop my Venmo in the bio.
Oh, snap. Okay.
Send it my way.
So thank you, Grid One Motorsports. Appreciate it. What was your answer to my thing?
I agree with Katie.
Kayla, your thoughts?
I feel like historically they had harsher duties and less freedom. They just kind of were given like hard things to do. Mm-hmm. One of them being protecting women, which is harder to do back then because we were taken advantage of. I don't know about now. I really haven't heard a man like complain about much. But I also deal with tough men.
So, I mean, I could approach the argument from quite a few ways. I won't linger too long on this. A few minutes, then I promise we'll wrap up. So, again, there's a lot of different ways that I can make this argument, but I'll just use what I consider to be my ultimate one. So, and this is for both modern day and throughout human history. So, if we look at gender-specific grievances and oppression, if I were to look at the worst woman-specific gender grievance and compare it to the worst male-specific gender grievance, just comparatively, and I'll name it in a sec, I think the male one is orders of magnitude worse than the female one. Now, if I were to even collectively take all of women's collective grievances and compare it to this one grievance that men have experienced throughout all of human history, I would argue that that sole grievance that men have nearly exclusively experienced outweighs in orders of magnitude more than all of women's collective grievances, and that is warfare. Now, you have forced military conscription, which adds even another layer. So not only was there just soldiers who volunteered to be soldiers, but you also had men who did not want to go to war, who were forced into war, and who came back either maimed, injured, severe mental injury, or just outright dead. So that sole male-specific grievance, I believe, outweighs all of women's collective grievances. Let's look at World War I. Let's look at World War II. World War I, casualties were tens of millions. World War II, casualties of war, tens of millions. These casualties, injuries and deaths, were almost exclusively inflicted upon men, the vast majority of which were not volunteer soldiers. They were conscripted into the army. The suffering that men, not just the death, not just the injury, but the actual suffering that men have experienced in the midst of warfare. Take example, trench warfare, trench foot, chemical weapons. These men lose their hearing, tinnitus from the constant barrage of shells. It occurs to me that is a far greater level of suffering than has been experienced by women.
Including losing your child and the word that I'm not allowed to say on here.
I'd like to counter with sex trafficking, the warfare of sex trafficking.
Well,
let me ask you a question. Okay, we'll have to use, we'll do SA.
When that's our
Would you rather be murdered or SA'd?
Murdered.
Okay, I mean, okay, that's fine.
Would you rather be murdered or lose your child?
I enjoy what?
Would you rather you yourself die or your child?
I would rather be. I would rather
be. It's two people's
be.
child, though. It's a man's child as well.
But in your point of saying that the mother's sole purpose is to be a mother and nurture, and so we are that much more connected with that child. So we are going to grieve the loss of the child that we are that much more connected to than a man.
I think it's probably fair to say that a mother would maybe grieve just as much, but also it's a man's child. He's losing a child.
So just to be clear, so your argument is that, let's just say, throughout all of human history, the sex trafficking that has occurred to women is worse than the tens of millions or hundreds of millions of primarily male deaths that have occurred throughout all of human history?
Yes, because of patriarchy.
Because of
the war is part of that.